So I'm gonna play this 52-second video for you of the hook. And then we're gonna go over an ambit bill, and I'm gonna cover breaking down the ambit bill and then incorporating the bill into the hook. So for the new guys, the hook is what you say when you get the bill, right? You've got your introduction, your objection handling, and your sales rabbit. Those are the three things you should have seen so far. You've seen a whole bunch of other stuff as well, obviously. But your introduction is what you say when you knock on the door. Your objections, this is how you deal with I'm not interested, I'm busy, I'm good, yada, yada. The rest of the training comes as you see per bill, as you practice the hooks, and you learn, well, what is on an ambit bill, what's on a TXU bill, yada, yada. So we're gonna break each hook down over the next several days, and if I can play some videos, I will. If I can't, then we'll practice it and we'll pull up different bills and go over the hooks. So the first thing I wanna do is play this video, and this is an expired contract, and this is my hook. I did my intro already, and I did all my objections, and she went and gave me the bill. I kept this video, or this recording, or this hook rather, I kept it as simple as possible, knowing I was gonna record it, knowing I was gonna play it to you guys. I kept this as simple as possible to show you, you don't need all the information you think you need. You don't need specifics like you think you need. You don't need to get into, in some cases, the prices, the companies, the savings, the differences. You don't need all that. And this may blow your mind. It's the simplest hook I can possibly give you. And I don't give any details. Okay? So you mentioned that you've seen the bill go up, right? The reason your bill's going up so much is because your plan's expired. Did you know that? Yeah. You did. So you're aware of what happens when...
It just expired last month. But it's
okay. But it's
already high.
Yeah, shut up. So not only was it... So what some of you may have done, if you heard her, I acknowledged her plan was expired. She was aware. Then she told me her bill was high. And instead of taking that bait and going right for the close, I stayed on track and I continued on with my hook. When a customer says at this stage, yes, I am aware my plan is expired and my bill's been really expensive. Buying sign, right? What some of you may have done is immediately go for the close. And you would have said, oh, that's exactly what here, I'm gonna lower it down, blah, blah, blah. Want to switch? And that ultimately is what I get to, but I don't skip steps to get to that step, right? Because what I'm in the process of doing is identifying the problem, which is an obvious one, elaborating on that problem, building the foundation for that problem to set me up for the solution, which ultimately is, that's exactly why I'm here, blah, blah, blah. But don't skip that step just because you got a buying sign, right? Don't take the bait and jump right into the close. Some of you lose easy deals because you think it's easy and then something happens and you skip a step and you end up losing that deal. It was because your plan expired that it went up even more. So the reason it was high in the past is because of the plan that you were on. You were on a fixed rate, but the rate you had was kind of expensive. When it expired, it went to a variable rate, and then it went up even more. And that's exactly why people like me come around. So what I'll do for you is... So my transition from the problem to the solution is that's exactly why people like me come around. Or that's why people like me get sent out. Or this is exactly why I'm here. My transition has to be smooth, right? You can't just problem solution. Right? Like there needs to be some kind of transition.
Yeah, that's jarring.
Yes, it is. It's too jarring, right? Jagged. Is that what?
No, it is.
Yeah, it needs to be smooth. So my transition 99% of the time is, this is why I'm here. We actually get sent out to look for plans like this. Don't worry, this is exactly what we get sent out for, or whatever variation of that. That's my transition. Now I'm getting into the solution, and my solution is very assumptive. What I'll do, it's not what I could do, what I might do. It's very, very assumptive. I assume the hell out of it. What I'll do, and then I go for the close. So notice in my problem, I didn't get specific at all. And maybe the video is too fast. This is a less than 1 minute hook. Some of my hooks are longer, but nobody heard me get into specifics, right? I didn't tell her our rate, their rate. I didn't get into anything. I didn't get into specific savings, percentages, amounts. It was your bill was high because your plan was high. Your plan is expired, so it's going up even more. Your plan went from fixed to variable, and that's bad. That's why the bill is more expensive. But don't worry, that's exactly why I'm here. Transition. So what I'll do, that's step one of the solution. And then I get into the solution. I'll redo it and drop the rate down and rephrase it. So not only is it a heck of a lot cheaper than your current rate, it's even cheaper than your contracted rate before your plan expired. Takes 2 seconds. That sound okay? All right, cool. Now, I recommend that you guys pre-close, because that was the pre-close. You heard the problem. The problem is your plan is expired. Your plan, did you know that? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, what is the problem? Why is it bad? The solution, you heard my transition. That's why I'm here. So what I'll do, that's my solution. And then my pre-close, I tell you guys to pre-close a bit more assumptively, right? So you say, that sounds good, right? I always leave it open-ended. Now, I'm giving you what I do, and I'm recommending you do the opposite. But the reason I recommend you guys are more assertive in how you pre-close is because some people can't handle the openness. I prefer it. So again, here's what I mean by this. Here's my pre-close. 2 seconds, that sound okay? That sound okay? If you were to do that up here, I would say, instead of saying, that sound okay, I would actually advise that you say, that sounds okay, right? I would actually recommend you say that. But I prefer to leave it open because when I get the yes that I'm looking for, without forcing it, that gives me a confidence boost. So that tells me they get it. I didn't even have to assume my pre-close. So they get it, they understand it. So whatever variation of that, if you're not performing, close that off and assume it and say right. Or if you are performing and or are more confident, you can leave it a little open. Just be prepared for whatever happens as a result of that. So when I say, that sound okay? I'm waiting. I'm pausing on purpose. Because if it's no, I want the no. I want that no first. If it's yes, cool. I assume it to be a yes. I expect a yes. And then I go for the close. That was just my pre-close. All right, cool. Give me a minute. That's it. Give me a minute. So I don't ask for... I don't ask for the ID. Sometimes I'll ask for the zip code. Occasionally I'll say, look, all I got to do is put the info in my tablet. I'll send it over. What's the zip code, right? And again, some of you say, all right, what's the ID? Or it's a little faster. If I had an ID, can you go grab it? There's probably 3 or 4 different ways you can close. The truth is you can't close the same way every time. It's just not possible. Some people require a qualify close. Well, can I just check to see if you qualify? Some people require that. Some people you can close just like this. Pretty kind of lackadaisical, open-ended. Sound good? Want to do it? Right? Cool. Just give me a second. Right? That was how I approached this one. Because I had the deal in the bag. Right? The bill was hundreds of dollars. It was expired. Her old plan, which I'll show you the bill, was decent. It was higher than ours, but it was decent. But the problem is that's not the plan she's on anymore. Now she's on a month to month. Her prices are a lot higher. I had all the leverage in the world. She was going to pay a deposit. She had a deposit coming back to her from Ambit. There was no deposit with us. So I had all the leverage in the world that I needed. So I knew by closing this as simply as I did, if she said no, I could hit her with the deposit. If she said no again, I could hit her with her prices are specific. I can give her specifics. If she said no again, I can hit her with, we don't have a deposit. If she said no again, I've got the 150 bill credit. If she said no again, I can do the math, right? Your old rate was 14. Now it's probably 17. We're at 12. That's a 5-cent difference on 1,000 kilowatts. It's $50 a month, right? Like you got to be able to do the math that quickly. So again, I didn't give her any of that. My hook was, oh my God, your plan has expired. Did you know that? Oh, you did? Fantastic. Blah, blah, blah. Your plan is going up. It's variable. It's going to cost more. I'll redo it. Blah, blah, blah. Very simple. Okay. And again, I keep it simple because I don't need the ammunition unless I need it. Some of you will fire your whole clip before you even need it. So again, keep it as simple as possible. And then when you need the ammunition, 1 bullet per question, 1 bullet per objection, right? Make sense? Okay, again, it's only 52 seconds. I'm not going to interrupt myself. This is the whole thing. So you mentioned that you've seen the bill go up, right? The reason your bill's gone up so much is because your plan's expired. Did you know that?
Yeah.
You did. So you're aware of what happens when...
They just expired last month, but it's,
Okay. But
it's already high.
yeah, it shot up. So not only was it high, it was because your plan expired that it went up even more. So the reason it was high in the past is because of the plan that you were on. You were on a fixed rate, but the rate you had was kind of expensive. When it expired, it went to a variable rate, and then it went up even more. And that's exactly why people like me come around. So what I'll do for you is I'll redo it and drop the rate down and rephrase it. So not only is it a heck of a lot cheaper than your current rate, it's even cheaper than your contracted rate before your plan expired. Takes 2 seconds. That sound okay? All right, cool. Give me a minute. And that's it. Is contracted, did I say that correctly? Because when I listened to this, I was like, contracted. Is that a fucking word?
I mean,
I didn't like the way that she got it. I didn't like the way that sounded.
Sure.
That was my only critique. But you guys, again, you get it. Like, it's very simple. This is one of the more simple hooks. All of my hooks are not this simple, but I'd say 50% of them are. And again, I left myself room to explain if needed. So I want to go over the bill. I tried to print it, but we had issues with our printer, so I can't pass it out. I'm going to pull it up on here instead. The way I said it sounded a little bit strange. Okay. So I'm going to go through like a kind of a training on the actual bill, because there's a lot of new people in here. When I see total amount due, $361, that's a red flag to me. So that tells me this bill is expensive. Maybe it's 2 bills in one. Maybe this is just 1 month. Either way, the information is accessible. We can determine that pretty quickly, but that's a high bill, right? Would we agree? Yep. So if this is a high bill, there's more opportunity there. Because remember, if they only use a little bit, then 2 pennies, 3 pennies doesn't really matter per kilowatt. Okay, if we're at 12 and they're at 15 and they use 400 kilowatts, 3 cents, well, sounds like a lot, but multiply that by 500 kilowatts, it's not a lot of money. But if it's 1 penny or 2 pennies and they use thousands of kilowatts a month, well, that adds up. So when I see a high bill, I think maybe high usage, and I just file that away, right? I'm not bringing it up. Maybe I'll bring it up. Maybe I'll say, oh my gosh, this is pretty high. But I leave that open. If I get a bill and it's $400 and Chris hands me the bill and I say to you, sir, this is pretty high. I'm not asking a question, right? I'm making a statement and I'm pausing. So when I say, wow, this is pretty high, if you agree with me, you're going to finish that. You're going to elaborate. And you're going to say something like, holy shit, it is high. You're telling me my last bill was even more expensive. Or if you disagree or you're not kind of taking that bait, you may not even respond because I didn't ask you a question. So that to me is neutral. I try not to say anything where it could be too much. But if I can have a neutral impact with no risk but positive, then I'm going to make a statement like that. Wow, this is pretty expensive. Because if I say, is this expensive to you, sir? Is this a high bill? Do you consider this bill to be expensive? And you say no, well, that's going to backfire. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to say, wow, this seems pretty expensive. If you don't comment, I move on. If you do comment, hopefully it's in my favor. I file it away and I move on. I'm just building a case, right? That's ultimately the whole thing. Previous balance, 587, credits and payments, 400, incoming credit card, 182, current charges. Okay, so here's what all this means. It looks like her last bill was $587, and this customer split that payment up, and they paid $405 and then $182. So they split the payment up. So incoming, they made a $400 payment on 9/20.
They did it flip-flop. They did the $100 payment first.
Yeah, 180 first, and then 405 on 9/20. So that means, now this 587 was last month. That could have been 2 bills in one. We don't know. We don't care. That's not necessarily relevant. But what we do know is that in the last 45 days, she has paid $587 and she now has a $361 bill due for today. That's what we do know, right? So expensive, almost $1,000 in the last 2 months. Okay, that's all we got so far. This is where the name is, obviously. And then we've got the usage chart here. So what we can tell by the usage chart is that this customer pretty consistently uses above 1,500. I would say their average is probably 17. We got a couple months at 2, 19, call it 2, 21, 19. So whatever, only 3 months that are pretty low, but pretty low on this usage chart, not necessarily low compared to an average customer. Right. The low months here, and here are average usage months for regular people. The high months on hers are a bit above average compared to a regular person. Now, if I'm remembering this house correctly, I don't have the address on here. This was a single family house. It was small, but it was a single family house. So if you are looking at high usage, I wouldn't say this is necessarily really, really high, but it's above average, so to speak, for the house her size. That might indicate that the house isn't very well insulated. It could be that the house is a little older, and based on the usage, the square footage of this house, this is decent usage. It's above average compared to her square footage. So what we've learned is her bill is very expensive. Okay, it's almost $1,000 in 2 months. We've learned she uses a good amount of energy. By that usage chart, we've deduced that her house is not very well insulated based on square footage and the size of the house, and she uses a decent amount. She's probably paying a lot all year round. Okay, we've also determined that she's lived in this house for at least a year, and she's had Ambit for at least a year. And we know that because we can see that they've got more than 12 usage bars. I don't know why that's happening. But anything that I missed on this first part of the bill? So far, so good? Okay. Now, this isn't a bad plan. Remember, I'm not closing on this plan. So what happens more often than not, sometimes people close on the wrong plan because they don't realize that this plan is expired. So now you're competing against this plan right here. And you're competing against 13 cents and 6 cents. So if you're not sure how this plan works, here's how it works. It's very simple. This is a tiered program. For every kilowatt up to 1,350, this customer is charged 13.3 cents per kilowatt. Okay? Everything over 1,350, she's charged 6.6. So if she uses another 1,000 kilowatts, she's charged 6.6. So she has two prices. Now, it's possible this customer has 3 tiers. We're just not sure what they are. But for all intents and purposes, only 2 tiers show up. So the only 2 tiers we're going to talk about are the 2 tiers that show up. Okay? But we don't care about any of this anymore. This 6 cents is irrelevant. Why?
Because the plan's expired.
It's expired, so who cares? That's not the plan she's on anymore. So if you don't know it's expired, you're going to be pitching 6 cents or competing against 6 cents. If you're aware it's expired, then none of this stuff matters. So the first thing I identified is that this plan was expired. I was able to identify that because there's no expiration date right here. If the customer is in contract on an Ambit bill or a TXU bill, you're going to see the expiration date right here. If you don't see it, and Tri-Eagle, TXU, and Ambit, all 3 of those bills look identical. Tri-Eagle and Ambit are owned by TXU. Well, rather, they're all owned by Vistra Energy. So those 3 companies will look the exact same. So if you learn Ambit, you've also learned TXU and Tri-Eagle. So you knock all three out with one. If you do not see an expiration date to the right of the ESID, if you don't see it, it's expired. And this plan just expired. Literally, on the bill she handed me, it had just expired. How do we know that? So the vets in here should be able to answer this question.
The months of the plan name are still in the name of the plan.
Yep. So you see where it says Ambit Texas plus 12? If this was still, if this was,
Expired already. Expired.
yeah, there we go. If this was expired, like past the very first bill of expiration, the plan name would have changed. And it would say something different. What is the Ambit's expired plan name?
Lone Star Core.
Lone Star Core. So if you see, now these are things for new guys. You're just going to have to remember some of this stuff. Some of this training, obviously, I mean, you'll hear this often, but some of these things you'll just have to write down, practice, remember in real time, because it helps to remember the stuff in real time. But if you get an Ambit bill and where it says plan name, you see the word core in the name of the plan, it's done, it's expired. And you can also confirm that expiration by a lack of an expiration date. So very easy. Plus, you heard in the video that this customer actually knew her plan was expired. Anytime I'm dealing with a specialty program or an expired program, first thing I do, oh my God, your plan is expired. Did you know that? Because I want to be prepared for that customer if they say, yes, I did know that, and I already renewed it. I want to deal with that and get that out ahead. Yes?
Wouldn't the base charge change too?
Yeah, typically the base charges, yes, they do change as well. Now, I don't want to confuse new guys, but this is another factor. See where it says base charge? Ambit, TXU, and I believe Tri-Eagle, right? All charge $10. Let's just go with Ambit and TXU.
Right.
Once this plan is officially expired on the next billing cycle, this $9.95 will change to $4.95. Because this rate is a reflection of the last bill under this contract. The next bill they get, it will say core, that will be $5, and this will be different. It will no longer be a fixed rate, it will now be variable, and the variable pricing will be more expensive. Okay? So you have to educate this customer and explain, without getting complicated, what the problem is. So the problem isn't that they're paying $13. The problem isn't that it's too expensive. The problem is the contract you have is expired. Now that it's expired, your rates are variable. Now that they're variable, they'll likely go up. And your bill is already expensive, and it's only going to be more expensive. So what I'll do is redo it, lower it down, and freeze it. And I threw it in my video. I'll also freeze it cheaper than whatever it is now because it's variable, and it's cheaper than whatever your old contract was as well. And I didn't even use the 150. I don't even think I mentioned that in the hook. Sometimes I'll bring it up, sometimes I won't. So I had tons of ammunition left if needed. But again, the purpose of this is to show you guys, number one, how do you identify the problem accurately? And then how do you explain the problem in a way that makes sense? But then how do you also personalize it and loop in what you've learned by looking at the first page of the bill? So you just heard me do that. Remember, the first page of this bill, we saw that the bill was $400. Her bill's already expensive. She knows that. She confirmed that. So what happens when it expires and goes up even more? Now it'll be even more expensive, right? So again, I'm personalizing it. So last couple things and then we'll wrap up. When you do your hook, the first thing you do is identify the problem. The problem was the contract expired. And because I've identified it's expired, I want to make sure that you know this. So I'm going to ask you, hey, your plan is expired. Did you know that? That's step one. Whether they say yes or no, that's irrelevant to me. I'm still going to explain what's wrong with it. Your basic explanation of what's wrong with an expired contract is that it used to be fixed, now it's variable. Variable is more expensive. That's bad because your bills are going to go up. So when I explain the problem, expiration, I'm also going to tell you why that's bad. And you just heard me do that. And then very quickly, my solution, remember, you need a transition. So your transition could be something as simple as, that's exactly why I'm here. That's why they send us out. Perfect timing. Okay, any of those will do. I'm sure there's 2 or 3 others. But that transition is what links and connects your problem to your solution. And your solution is what I'll do. Not what I could do, not what I might do, what I'll do. This is exactly why we come around to find plans just like this. Good thing I got here what I did. What I'll do, and then bam, I'll redo it and lower the rate. And again, keep in mind, I do post these videos online, but then I also posted a whole bunch of different hooks on Slack. So go into, not now, but whenever, go into your search bar on Slack and then type in hook video or not interested video or whatever you're looking for, whatever video. And then you'll see I uploaded like 15 to 20 videos and I'll continue to upload more. And then I also uploaded expired hook video, summer pass video, free night video, all of the hook. So essentially what we're covering now, which I'll upload this meeting as well, I've uploaded a ton of those training videos for you guys. So you've got your solution, and then finally you've got your pre-close, and then you've got your close. Your pre-close we just covered. That makes sense, right? Yep. Or you don't have any problems with that, do you? And then your close is however you close. It's asking for the zip code, asking for the ID, or just assuming the deal like you saw me do. I'm a little less worried about all this stuff for you guys. If you didn't catch on to the solution, the pre-close and the close, that's okay. From a new guy perspective, all that matters, learn how to read the bill and learn how to accurately identify what problem that you're going to talk about. Just that's it. If you don't know how to explain it right now, that's okay. But I want you to be able to look at a bill, like an Ambit bill, for example, and be like, all right, I found the price, I found the expiration date, I found the plan. Here are the 3 things I'm looking for. Which one of these should I talk about? And if you can give me the right answer, you're good. So forget about what to say. There's videos and training and plenty of time for all that. So don't stress about what to say. I just want you to be able to accurately identify what problem should I talk about. And that's good enough for right now. And I'll try over the next couple days to pull up different bills, pass them out, and break down Ambits, TXUs, free nights, season pass. So I'll spend some time going over that. Any questions about this before we wrap up? Simple enough? Cool, that's it, guys.